You think you know what kind of oil your Toyota needs, but what if everything you've heard is wrong? Toyota's own genuine oil often comes with viscosity numbers that raise eyebrows. We're going to break down the real science behind these formulations, compare it to industry standards, and finally answer, is this unconventional oil the best choice for protecting your engine, or could it be silently causing damage? Number 12. The conspiracy everyone's whispering about. Toyota owners are freaking out across every forum on the internet, and it all started with three little numbers, 0W-8. This oil is so thin that seasoned mechanics with 40 years of experience are calling it water and refusing to put it in customer engines. Here's what's really happening. In 2023, Toyota started recommending oil with viscosity ratings lower than anything we've ever seen in automotive history. We're not talking about a small change. Traditional engines ran on 5W30 or 10W30. Then Toyota moved to 0W20. Now they're demanding 0W8, and some dealerships are charging $150 for a single oil change because this stuff is rarer than gold. But here's the kicker. Toyota uses completely different oil specifications for the exact same engine in other countries. Australian Corollas with identical engines, they're approved to run 15W40 oil. That's 5 times thicker. Something doesn't add up, and Toyota's not being straight with American customers about what's really driving these insane recommendations. Number 11, the $20 per quart nightmare. Let's talk about money, because this low viscosity oil situation is about to drain your wallet faster than a cracked oil pan. Toyota's genuine 0W8 oil costs anywhere from $8 to $20 per quart, depending on your dealership, and most shops don't even stock it. Compare that to conventional 5W30 that you can buy at Walmart for $4 a quart, and you're looking at a 400% price increase for your basic maintenance. But here's where it gets criminal. A typical oil change uses 5 quarts, so you're spending $100 just on the oil before labor costs. One Toyota Crown owner reported paying $150 for a single oil change at the dealership. Meanwhile, aftermarket alternatives like Mobil 10W8 run about $28 for 5 quarts at Walmart, but most local auto parts stores don't carry it. The availability problem is so bad that dealerships are using 0W16 instead because they literally cannot source 0W8 in bulk. You're being asked to pay premium prices for oil that doesn't even exist on most shelves. That's not engineering advancement. That's a supply chain disaster. Number 10, the government regulation trap. Now we're getting to the real reason your oil suddenly turned into expensive water. And it has nothing to do with protecting your engine. It's called CAFE standards, which stands for Corporate Average Fuel Economy. And it's forcing manufacturers to squeeze every fraction of a mile per gallon out of their vehicles or face massive federal fines. Here's how the game works. Automakers need to hit specific fuel economy targets set by the EPA and CARB regulations, or they pay penalties that run into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Toyota discovered that switching from 0W16 to 0W8 oil delivers a measly 0.8% improvement in fuel economy. That's less than 1 mile per gallon on most vehicles. But when you multiply that tiny fraction across millions of cars sold per year, it adds up to enough savings to keep Toyota out of regulatory trouble. The Japanese government's push for reduced CO2 emissions is even more aggressive, which is why these ultra-low viscosity oils were developed in Japan first, and then forced on American consumers. Your engine is being sacrificed on the altar of government compliance. Number 9, the film thickness deception. Here's where Toyota's marketing gets dangerously misleading. They keep saying 0W8 oil is perfectly safe because modern engines have tighter tolerances. But that's only half the truth. Let's expose the real science. Engine bearings need something called oil film thickness to prevent metal-on-metal contact that causes catastrophic wear. Traditional thicker oils create that protective film through pure viscosity. Think of it like a cushion between moving parts. But 0W8 oil is so thin at operating temperature, measuring just 5 centistokes at 100 degrees Celsius compared to 8.2 centistokes for 0W20, that it can't create adequate film thickness through viscosity alone. So what's Toyota's solution? They're dumping in exotic chemical additives called oil film formers and calcium borate detergents that artificially boost film thickness without increasing viscosity. Here's the problem. These additives degrade over time, especially if you stretch your oil change intervals. Once those additives break down, you're left with oil that's literally thinner than the manufacturer's recommended minimum. But Toyota's not publishing any long-term data showing what happens when these additive packages fail at 8,000 or 10,000 miles. That's the gamble you're taking with every oil change. Number 8, the molybdenum secret weapon. Toyota engineers weren't stupid. They knew 0W8 oil couldn't protect engines on viscosity alone, so they cooked up a chemical warfare strategy that most car owners don't know exists. The secret ingredient is something called molybdenum dithiocarbamate, or MODTC, which is a friction-reducing compound that works at the molecular level. Here's how it functions. When engine parts rub together under extreme pressure, MODTC forms a protective layer that reduces friction even when the oil film breaks down. But Toyota took it one step further. They developed a calcium borate detergent that enhances the friction reduction effect of molybdenum by up to 30%. This chemical cocktail is what allows 0W8 oil to pass the JASO GLV1 specification, which is the only legitimate certification these ultra-thin oils have. The American API standards don't even have a category for 0W8 yet, which means we're essentially beta testing unproven technology in real-world conditions. The question nobody's asking is, what happens when this sophisticated additive package encounters contamination from direct injection fuel dilution or gets cooked at high temperatures? Those expensive chemicals might be keeping your engine alive today, but will they last? Number 7, the bearing clearance myth. Toyota keeps claiming that modern engines have tighter tolerances that require these water-thin oils. But master engine builders are calling BS on that marketing line. Here's what's really happening under your hood. Bearing clearances in Toyota engines haven't changed significantly in decades. The standard rod bearing clearance is still around 0.0009 to 0.0022 inches, and main bearings run 0.0025 to 0.0035 inches. Those numbers are virtually identical to engines from 20 years ago that ran perfectly fine on 5W30 oil. So if the clearances haven't changed, why does Toyota suddenly need oil with half the viscosity? The truth is more complicated. Modern engines use different coatings on bearing surfaces, roller followers instead of sliding cam followers, and variable valve timing systems that require specific oil pressure characteristics. But here's the dirty secret. Those same engines in other markets are approved to run much thicker oils. Australia, Europe, and Middle Eastern versions of Toyota's engines list oil recommendations ranging from 5W30 all the way up to 15W40 for the exact same engine block. If the tolerances were truly that tight, thicker oils would cause immediate failure. They don't, because the tight tolerance story is marketing fiction. Number 6, the hybrid engine conspiracy. Now we're uncovering why 0W8 oil is being pushed hardest on hybrid vehicles, and it reveals Toyota's real priorities. Hybrid engines operate in a start-stop pattern that's completely different from conventional vehicles. The gas engine shuts off at stoplights, then fires back up seconds later, sometimes hundreds of times per day. This creates what engineers call boundary lubrication conditions, where the oil film breaks down during shutdown and must rebuild instantly at startup. Toyota claims ultra-low viscosity oil flows faster during cold starts, reducing wear during those critical first seconds. That part is technically true. But here's what they're not telling you. The lower viscosity also means lower oil pressure at operating temperature, which some mechanics believe increases long-term wear in high-stress conditions like highway driving or towing. The real reason Toyota wants 0W8 in hybrids isn't just engine protection, it's because the thinner oil reduces parasitic drag on the internal combustion engine, which directly improves the fuel economy numbers printed on the EPA sticker. Those MPG ratings help Toyota sell more hybrids and earn regulatory credits. Your engine longevity is secondary. Number 5. The Australian smoking gun. This is the evidence that proves Toyota is playing games with American consumers, and it's hiding in plain sight in their Australian owners' manuals. Take the 2023 Toyota Corolla with the 2.0-liter M208 engine. In the United States, Toyota demands 0W8 oil and warns that using thicker viscosity could damage your engine. Now look at the Australian version of the exact same engine, with the same part numbers, same bearings, same specifications. The Australian Owner's Manual says you can use 0W16, 5W20, 5W30, 10W30, and even 15W40 depending on ambient temperature. That's not a typo. Toyota officially approves oil that's 300% thicker in Australia than what they claim is required in America. The only explanation is that U.S. fuel economy regulations are far stricter than Australian standards, so Toyota restricts American owners to ultra-thin oil to meet EPA targets, while Australian buyers get real-world flexibility. Same engine, same parts, completely different oil recommendations based purely on regulatory environment. This proves beyond any doubt that the 0W8 requirement isn't about engine protection. It's about passing government tests. You're not being told the whole truth. Number 4, the oil change interval danger. Toyota's recommended oil change intervals are about to become a major problem, and most owners don't realize they're walking into a trap. Modern Toyotas equipped with 0W8 oil have official maintenance schedules listing 10,000-mile oil change intervals, which sounds convenient until you understand what's happening to that ultra-thin oil over time. These low viscosity oils rely heavily on chemical additives to maintain film thickness and prevent wear. Additives that degrade with heat, contamination, and time. But here's the killer detail. These engines use direct injection, which means gasoline frequently bypasses the piston rings and dilutes the crankcase oil. When fuel mixes with already thin oil, viscosity drops even further. Independent oil analysis reports from owners running 10,000-mile intervals show concerning levels of wear metals and fuel dilution, especially in short-trip driving conditions. Some mechanics with decades of experience refuse to follow Toyota's 10,000-mile intervals, instead recommending 5,000-mile changes for 0W8 equipped engines. But Toyota's not publishing any data on how these ultra-thin oils perform at 8,000 or 9,000 miles, when the additive packages are depleted and fuel dilution has thinned the oil even further. That silence is terrifying. Number 3, the taxi fleet rebellion. Here's proof that real-world professionals aren't buying Toyota's ultra-thin oil story, and it comes from the people who depend on engine longevity for their livelihoods. A maintenance chief for a taxi company running a fleet of 7th-generation Camrys with the 2ARFE engine revealed something shocking. Despite Toyota specifying 0W20 oil for those engines, he's been running 5W30 since day one. The results? Those taxi Camrys were driven 350,000 to 400,000 miles, with zero oil consumption issues and no engine failures. These weren't pampered vehicles. They were subjected to the absolute worst conditions imaginable, with constant idling, stop-and-go traffic, and full load operation for years straight. If Toyota's claims about requiring ultra-thin oils for tight tolerances were true, those engines should have seized up within 100,000 miles on the wrong oil. Instead, they outlasted most consumer vehicles that followed the manual religiously. The taxi industry has quietly rejected Toyota's recommendations because fleet managers care about actual durability over EPA test results. That real-world data is worth more than any marketing claim, and it suggests thicker oils provide better long-term protection than Toyota admits. Number 2, the warranty void threat. Now let's address the elephant in the room that stops most Toyota owners from questioning these oil recommendations: the fear of voiding their warranty. Dealerships and service advisors love to threaten customers with warranty denial if they deviate from specified oils. But here's what the law actually says. Under the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, manufacturers cannot void your warranty simply for using alternative products unless they can prove that alternative product directly caused the failure. Translation: if you use 0W16 instead of 0W8, or even 0W20 in some cases, Toyota would need to demonstrate in court that the slightly thicker oil specifically caused the engine damage you're claiming. That's a nearly impossible burden of proof. Here's the loophole most mechanics use. As long as you're using oil that meets Toyota's required specifications for viscosity grade and API/ILSAC ratings, you're legally protected. Many owners are quietly using aftermarket 0W8 from Mobil 1 or similar brands instead of paying $20 per quart for Toyota branded oil, and their warranties remain intact. The warranty threat is mostly psychological warfare designed to keep you paying dealership prices for oil that any certified product can replace. Number 1, the verdict. Should you actually use it? After exposing all the deception, here's the cold truth about whether you should actually use Toyota's ultra-thin oils. If you're leasing or planning to keep your vehicle under 150,000 miles, using the specified 0W8 or 0W16 is probably fine. Those engines are designed to survive the warranty period on these oils, and you'll get marginally better fuel economy. Stick with the maintenance schedule, don't miss oil changes, and use certified JASO GLV1 spec oils, whether Toyota branded or aftermarket. But if you're planning to keep your Toyota for 200,000 plus miles, or subject it to severe conditions like towing, mountain driving, or extreme temperatures, consider this strategy. Use 0W16 instead of 0W8, or 0W20 instead of 0W16, as a compromise that provides better protection with minimal fuel economy sacrifice. Reduce your oil change intervals to 5,000 miles maximum, especially if you do lots of short trips where the engine never fully warms up. And here's the most important rule. Never extend oil changes beyond 7,500 miles on these ultra-thin oils, regardless of what the maintenance reminder says. The taxi fleet data and Australian specifications prove these engines can handle thicker oils, but you'll be gambling with your warranty coverage. Choose your risk tolerance, but now you know what Toyota's not telling you about their secret oil formulations.